Welcome. This presentation will provide you an overview of business online banking. Business online banking is American Bank's business online banking application. This presentation will highlight the different features and functionality available to you in business online banking. Demonstrations will be performed in a generic system, giving you a real-time view of just how easy it is to navigate in the application. Throughout the product on all pages, there is a dynamic help function that can be accessed to give assistance on any page. This webinar is approximately 90 minutes in length. Remember, you can return to view this video at any time. Today, the features and services listed will be discussed. This will include demonstrations and actions, the ACH, wire, positive pay, and downloadable reports information is optional. If your business is using these additional features, please remain in the session to learn more about these topics. To get to American Bank's business online banking site, one option is to type it directly into your browser. The login for business online banking must now be accessed by navigating to our website at americanbank.com. Click on the Business and Other Logins drop-down and then click on Business Online Banking. This is the Log-On page. The company ID is going to be a new piece of login criteria followed by your user ID, then select Continue. After you've entered your login credentials, a one-time security code prompt will be presented. After clicking the Continue with Security Code button, you will be presented with an option to receive the one-time security code either by phone call or text message. If you choose to receive the code by phone, enter the code presented and click the Phone Call Completed button. If you choose to receive the code via text message, enter your mobile number and click Send Text Message. Once you've completed the process, upon your first login, you'll enter your temporary password and select Sign In. You'll then be prompted to enter a permanent password. You must follow the password requirements on the screen. Here's your American Bank welcome page you will see after you have successfully logged into business online banking. The welcome page offers information, links, and tasks that are easily accessible and contained in various panels. Each user has the ability to customize the panels based on your own needs. It's very easy to add, customize, and remove the available panels. For this webinar, I will be using a demonstration environment. Keep in mind that all clients are required to conduct out-of-band authentication at first sign-in. Allow me just a moment to navigate to my demonstration site. As mentioned, I am in a demonstration site. Just as you saw the American Bank welcome page, here's the welcome page for this site. When you first log in, your welcome page will only contain the standard panels. This Add Info Panels option on the right will allow you to customize what panels you would like to view on your welcome page. These panels can be reorganized for your viewing pleasure. If you hover over the title of the panel, you get a four-headed arrow. You can drag and drop the panels into place. Snaps right into place. I'm going to move it back for the example. We'll now focus on the Important Account Balance panel. This panel has my accounts listed by account type. I can choose the link to view the available balance as well as the accessible balance. I'll hit Close, go back, and I'll choose the last four digits of the account numbers to view the intraday account activity. I'll choose the Welcome tab to return back to my dashboard view. It's quite possible you have 5 tabs across the top. Hovering over each tab gives you another list of menu options. If I select the tab, I'm taken to a page of clickable links. We'll return back to the welcome page. At the top right, there's my help functionality as well as sign off. At the very bottom of the important account balance panel, I can edit the accounts displayed. This is how I determine which accounts are shown here in my important account balance panel. Because this panel only allows 7 accounts for each account type, by that I mean 7 checking, 7 savings, so on and so forth, you can add an unlimited amount of important account balance panels if you want to display, let's say, more than 7 checking accounts on your dashboard. We'll hit the X to close this view. And we'll take a look at the Recent Alerts and Messages panel. This panel houses your bank mail messages as well as alerts. You choose the subject to review the information in a pop-up window, and you can close to navigate back to your welcome page. At the bottom of this panel, we'll manage the alerts. There are 3 different types of alerts. Alerts can be received by email or text message, as well as here in Business Online Banking. We'll begin with the account alerts. I can choose my account from the list and select Go, and it starts with balance and activity. So let's say I want to be alerted anytime my balance falls below $1,000. I'll choose the Add Action button. I'll choose my destination. My text number would be there as well, and I'll enter my dollar amount. We'll add the alert. It highlights in yellow and fades back to gray. The check mark indicator lets me know that this alert is enabled. There are a few others I'd like to point out. Under Transfer and Payment Alerts, you have the ACH approval pending. When an ACH transaction is entered, the approving party will receive an alert letting them know they should sign in to Business Online Banking and place their approval on the ACH transaction before it's transmitted. In addition to the approval pending, you have the ACH transaction approval reminder. This reminder lets you know 30 minutes prior to the bank's window closing for ACH transactions to get in and approve the ACH transaction before the window closes. Up next, you have stop payment alerts as well as wire transfer. Just like ACH, the wire transfer has wire transfer approval pending as well as wire transaction approval reminder. We'll scroll back up to the top. Let's take a look at the non-account alerts. This includes things like email address, phone number, password changes. Some of these cannot be disabled. And then you have the custom alerts. I can be alerted by anything that I'd like here in Business Online Banking as well as the other destination options that are available. I'll select Change just to see what this alert entails. It's my payroll alert. It tells me to submit the payroll file. It's being sent to my email address. It occurs twice a month on the 15th and the last day of the month, and it's set to continue indefinitely. We'll close the alert and navigate back to the welcome page. This time I'm looking for my calendar. Once the calendar loads, it has some green shaded dates here. I'll choose the last day of the month, and we'll see what's set to happen on this day. There are some scheduled requests for this day. I also have my payroll alert. Okay. The next thing I want to focus on is administration. We'll hover over the administration tab. For this session, we'll focus on company administration. Company administration can only be viewed by company admins within your organization. We'll start with managing users. It's very important that each company administrator signs in and performs your company administration functions before any additional users can access any accounts or features. On this user administration page, I have a list of all of my existing users at my company. I'm listed here as the admin. It's my responsibility to look into each one of these profiles to assure that this user is set up properly and that they have access to the right services and accounts. I'll start with the first user. I need to verify that their user and contact information is up to date. I can edit any of these fields by choosing the hyperlink on the right. We'll scroll down to the roles. We'll edit the roles here. And let's talk about what each of the three represents. The first role is the Setup Template role. This gives the user the ability to set up multiple account transfer, ACH, and wire templates. The next role has the Approve capability. They can approve transactions. And the final role grants the user administration privileges. That means they can set up new users for the company. They have access to all account information. Okay, we'll save the changes, return to the user profile, and move on to the next piece of the workflow, services and accounts. We'll edit the services and accounts. There are 37 services available. It's my responsibility to go down through each one of the services, turning them on where appropriate, and assigning capabilities for accounts. We'll scroll down and we'll begin with information reporting. I'll select Change here. Information reporting gives the user access to the balance for the account as well as activity for the account. So I have all of the accounts that are available, and I have check marks that entitle them to this account. So let's say that as the company admin, I'm also the owner of the company, and I have a CD that's tied to my business online banking profile. I don't want any of the users in my company to have access to the CD or its balance. I remove the check mark here. That way, they are unable to access the balance or any other activity. Make sure I save the changes. We'll scroll down, and this time I'll take a look at the multiple account transfer service. I click Change here. I have all of the accounts listed that have the multiple account transfer service turned on, and then I have 3 entitlements that coincide with this service. The first one is Entitle From. That means this user can send multiple account transfers from this account. The middle column allows them to send transfers to this account. And the very last column allows them to approve multiple account transfers for these accounts. Okay? Just because I give them access to enter transfers doesn't necessarily mean they have to have the ability to approve. I place the check marks in the boxes where appropriate and save the changes. Once that's complete, I'll double check and save all of my changes again, and we'll return to the user profile. I'll scroll down to the very bottom, Limits. I will assign ACH and wire limits, as well as any other payment services that are listed here. We'll begin with ACH and select Edit. At the very top of the page, I have the user daily limit. So per day, this user can do up to $80,000 in ACH transactions. I have access to view the company limits here as well, just so that I keep in compliance with what my company limits are set for. We'll close that and return back to the user's profile. I can make any changes where necessary. Next are the ACH service limits. So this user has 3 limits. I can add additional by removing the no limit check mark there. So for CCD collection, I can give this user a $20,000 limit per day per the CCD collection service. We'll scroll down, and next are the ACH account limits. So each account that this user has access to, I can place a limit there as well. We'll save the changes, and we'll move on to the wire limit. Scroll back down to the bottom and select Edit. Works pretty much the same way. This user has an overall daily wire limit at the very top. Company limits are still here. We'll move on to the wire daily maximum service limit. So for each of these wire services, there's a limit in place. The wire account limits are a little bit more granular than what we saw at the ACH level. So not only can they have a daily account limit for wire, we can also establish an individual transaction limit. We'll save the changes here, return to the user profile, verify that everything has been entered correctly. I'll supply this user with their user ID, password, and company ID. They'll sign in for the very first time, go through the out-of-band authentication via the one-time security code, enter their temporary password, and establish a permanent password for future use. We'll scroll back up and navigate back to Manage Users. So once all of our users have been verified, I've ensured that they have access to everything that they need, they're good to go and can use the system according to the entitlements and limits that they're given. Well, let's say we onboard a new employee after everything has been set up. In that situation, we'll have to create a new user. We'll assign this user a user ID, at least 4 characters in length. They'll receive a temporary password. I'll confirm that password. It's 8 to 12 characters in length, at least 1 letter, 1 number, and it's not case sensitive. I'll enter their first and last name, followed by the primary email address. The secondary email and additional information fields are both optional. A phone number is required. I suggest using a mobile number. That way they can do phone call or text message through the out-of-band authentication. We'll continue. Now we need to assign roles. Before we move on to the roles, let's talk about the copying an existing user. I consider this the easy button. Here's why. When I choose to copy a user, I select an existing user from the list. We'll go with Ken Client here and copy. Notice that Ken's roles were populated to the new user. When we use the copy feature, it copies the roles, services, and accounts from the existing user to the new user. I can still make adjustments where necessary. I'm going to remove the admin privileges. So that means that one admin can entitle another user admin privileges. We'll continue. So the 35 services that Ken Client, our existing user, had have now been copied over to the new user. If their job functionality is exactly the same, I don't necessarily have to make any changes. If it is not, it's okay for me to go in and manipulate things as necessary. So I'll choose any of the payment services. I can change up the account access. Make sure I save my changes along the way. We'll scroll down and continue. The next step would be the limits. Right, this is my existing users limits that have been copied over, but I can certainly make changes where necessary. Just make a few changes here and go down and be sure we continue. And the last screen is going to be our wire limit screen that we have to make any changes to, or we can leave everything exactly how it is. Then we'll verify the details of this user's profile, make sure that their roles, services, and accounts and limits have been established, and we'll submit their profile. We should receive a confirmation, and this user is good to go. I'll supply them with the company ID, their user ID, and password. They'll go through out-of-band authentication and establish a permanent password. I want to navigate back to Manage Users. And here I want to remind you again that it's very important that the company admin sign in to complete the profiles for the additional company users. Also here in my existing user list, this is where we would assist a user with password-related problems. So I'm going to simulate a lockout for a user, and we'll talk about exactly how we can help. We'll go back to Manage Users, and we can see here that Bob employee is locked. Bob contacts me as the company administrator, and I can provide assistance. I'll choose System Access next to Bob's name, and I have 2 options here. I can assign Bob a temporary password, save the changes. He'll sign in with the temporary password, establish a permanent password, and he's good to go. Let's say Bob says, I know what my password is. My caps lock was on. That's the reason I locked myself out. Is there any way you can help me so that I don't have to change my password? Sure. If I remove the check mark from the user locked box and save the changes, when I return to the Manage Users page, Bob employees should be active again. Okay, so you have two options, temporary password, or you can do a simple unlock. We'll go back up to administration. The other piece I'd like to discuss is the self-administration. Users have the ability to change their password once per day. I'll enter my current password, followed by the new password, confirm my new password, and save the changes. The system resets itself at 12:01 a.m. Eastern. This password has to be at least 8 to 12 characters in length. It must include 3 of the following: lowercase letter, uppercase, number, special character. It cannot include any spaces, cannot include a character that repeats more than 3 times. It is case sensitive, and there's a list of the special characters that it can include. Also under administration, we can manage our contact preferences. I can update my email address here as well as my phone number. Up next is managing my favorites. So I can choose that from the list, but let's take a look at our quick links menu on the left. If I choose manage favorites here, same option. I can have up to 5 functions or pages saved as a favorite at any given time. It's very easy to maintain the favorites here. I just deleted one. It can quickly be added back from the list. I choose add favorite. I pointed out the help at the very top on the right. There's also help on each page that you'll be on. So if we navigate back to our welcome page, this time we're looking for the shortcuts panel. It houses our list of favorites. The purpose is just kind of give me quick access to those features or pages. Once it loads, I'll choose the name of my favorite, and it takes me directly to that page. Okay. The next page I would like to look at deals with reports. If we hover over reports, we have a list of options here. I'm going to show you a few of the many reports that you may use. Reports is a means to view accounts and activity, which may be a little bit different for you. Under reports, I'm going to navigate to activity deposit account report. At the very top, I'll choose the output. I'm leaving it set to screen. Then I should choose the accounts for the report. If I have lots of accounts, I can sort them by account type and select Go. Next, I specify my date range. I can do a specific date or a range not to exceed 90 days in the range, previous business day, or since my last download if I'm a QuickBooks customer. Next, what type of transactions do I want to view in this report? All transactions, just credits or debits, or a selected group of credits and debits. If I choose to, I can choose the specific transaction codes that will appear in my report. Choose the code, click Move Selected. I can Control-click to select multiple. For this exercise, we'll leave it set to all transactions. I have some advanced options towards the bottom. How do I want the information sorted on the report? Account number, description, ABA and account number, or ABA number and description. I've selected to include transaction details, subtotals for the transaction groups, and totals by day. If necessary, I can run a search within my report. I can search by an amount, a range of amounts, a check number, or a range of check numbers, and a description will generate the report. My reporting criteria is up top with a few other clickable links here. I have my subtotals, and then it gets into the report activity. I have checkboxes to select different transactions for printing purposes. I have the posted date of the transaction, the reference number, which would be the check number, any additional reference information, the image column, a description of the transaction, the debit or credit amount of the transaction, and a calculated ending balance after the transaction. In my image column, anything that has a camera icon has an image attached. If I choose the camera icon, it takes me into the image viewer, and by default it shows me the front of the check. I can view the back of the check by choosing the down-facing arrow. I can save, print, zoom. We'll close this view and take a look at the deposit image. Choose the camera icon. Here I can see the deposit slip as well as the report of items on the slip. If I choose the check number, by default it shows me the front of the check. I can view the back, front and back, same options to save, print, and zoom. Okay. Up next, let's have a look at the balance deposit account report. I'll choose it from my Quick Links menu on the left. I'll leave it set to view here on the screen. I'll choose a couple of accounts for the balance report. I'm going to go with specific date here. I can still choose a range or a previous business day. Sorting the information by account number. And then I want to view all balance information, or I can be specific about which balances I view on this report. We'll generate the report, and then it gives us those different balances by the specific day that we chose. My first account is here. There are the balances. Second account is listed here, as well as the balances. At this time, we'll take a look at the transfer service. We'll hover over transfers and payments, and as you can see, there are two different types of internal transfers. You have what's referred to as the internal, which would be from one American bank to another American bank account. The multiple account transfer is used from one to many or many to one American bank account. We'll begin with transfer money internal. I'll choose the from account, my to account. I'll enter a dollar amount. The description field is optional. Let's look at the frequency options. Today only, one time, every other week, twice a month, monthly, every 3 months, 6 months, yearly, and custom. Custom allows me to choose random dates from a calendar. We'll choose weekly. My next send-on date is defaulted to tomorrow's date. When would I like this transfer to end? Continue indefinitely until a certain date or a certain number of occurrences. And then I can choose my processing option. If my processing date falls on a holiday, would I like for it to process the day before or the day after? We'll select Continue. Verify the details of the transfer. So everything from this point on is entitlement-based. If I was not given the entitlement to approve internal transfers using these accounts, I won't have the Approve option. I'll only be able to submit for approval. We'll go ahead and submit this transfer for approval. Everyone has their alerts turned on. The approving party is going to receive their alert, letting them know that they have an internal transfer that requires their approval. They can place their approval on transactions from the welcome page in the Transfers and Payments Approval panel. Once it loads, they'll be able to approve internal transfers, ACH, and wire transactions. You'll locate the transfer from the list, choose the account details, and approve the transaction here. But let me point out that anything that's placed on a schedule that reoccurs at a frequency will be housed on the Manage Next Schedule Request page located under Transfers and Payments. If I choose this link, I have my internal transfers, wire, and ACH transactions that have been put on a schedule. Okay? Another option of approving internal transfers is through the actual service. Transfers and Payments, approve transfers, locate the transfer, continue, and place your approval on this internal transfer. Now we'll take a look at the multiple account transfer, which has to be on a template. We'll choose transfer money, manage template, and the first thing we'll do is add a template. We'll give it a name. We'll choose debit, and we'll talk about the difference in credit. We'll choose the main account. The maximum transfer amount is required. And we'll select 2 debit accounts from the list at the bottom. Okay, so this means that I'm debiting my main account, and I'll be crediting these detailed accounts at the bottom, and I can transfer up to $1,000 to each one of these accounts. The other option is credit. So I'll choose accounts from the list again, and we'll talk about what this one does. So we'll be crediting our main account and debiting the detailed accounts at the bottom. Remember, we can transfer up to $1,000 for each. We'll add the template. It's been created successfully. So when we're ready to use it, we'll go back to Transfer Money, Manage Templates, select our template from the list, and continue. Our dollar amounts have already been entered. We'll continue. Verify the transfer details, and depending on our entitlement, we'll either submit for approval or transmit. We'll go ahead and transmit this transfer. Okay, let's move on to stop payment. We'll navigate to the Account Services tab, and we'll choose Stop Check Payments. You'll have the ability to stop a single check or a range of checks not to exceed 49 checks in a range. We'll begin by choosing the account for the stop. The reason is optional. We're stopping a single check, so we'll enter the check number. We'll choose the date on the check. The payee and amount fields are both optional. We'll continue. Verify the details of the stop, and we'll go ahead and submit the request. This confirmation page lets us know it's been submitted successfully. We'll do a new request, and this time we will do a range of checks. I'll choose that option, enter the first check in the range, followed by the last check, not to exceed 49. We'll continue, verify the details, and submit here as well. We also have the ability to view the existing stop payment. We have to run a report for this information. So we'll choose the account, we'll do a date range, and we'll generate the report. So here's a list of my existing stops for that date range. I have the check numbers, the last 4 of the account, payee and amount fields if it was specified, the date it was submitted, as well as the date it's set to expire. I can cancel the stop from this page, or I can choose the account number to cancel the stop on this page. Now I will be displaying where you will locate the bill pay information. If we hover over transfers and payments, there's the bill pay option. Business Bill Pay provides a way to easily pay your company bills electronically. You're able to pay bills from one or multiple companies from the same bill pay profile, as well as add invoice information to your payment, set up e-bills, and manage your company users. That concludes the first part of the training. The next section will cover additional treasury management products and services, including ACH origination, wire, positive pay, and downloadable reports. We'll begin with the ACH service. I'll hover over transfers and payments and navigate over to ACH. Under ACH, we see options to make ACH payments or collect money via ACH. An example of an ACH payment You're sending money out, such as payroll. Example of collecting money via ACH is debiting accounts for things such as dues or fees. All ACH and online wire transactions created through business online banking are suggested to be performed under dual control for layered security. Out-of-band authentication is the preferred method of step-up authentication at American Bank for ACH and online wire approval. Soft tokens accessed via the VIP Access app on a smartphone will not be available in the new system. Clients who have been using these soft tokens for approval will authenticate by entering a one-time security code received by either phone call or text message in the new system for online wire and transfer approval. Clients who have been using a hard token or fob for approval will receive new tokens from Treasury Management Support before July the 20th. If you are not sure which method of authentication you should be using, please contact the Treasury Management Support team. Okay, so for wires, we'll have two options. ACH will have two options, one-time entry or a template. So we'll begin with making an ACH payment, managing templates, and we'll start by creating a template. So we'll choose the Create option here. We'll give our template a name. Choose the request type. We'll do PPD payment. We'll choose the company name and ID. We'll give it a description, the debit account for this template, as well as the maximum transfer amount. We'll continue. Our header information is up top. It can be edited using this link. We'll enter the routing number. I'll do an ABA search. I can search by name, state and city, or routing number. I can do a partial search on both name and routing if I remove the exact match checkbox there. I'll enter some digits for the name of the bank. We'll search. I'll just randomly choose one of the banks from my list here, add the bank. Now I can move forward with the account information. Choose the account type, enter the employee's name. The detailed ID field is optional. It can be used for things like employee ID numbers. The default amount, this is optional because we're doing a template. I can update this amount each time I use the template and leave this blank, or if it's the same exact amount each time, I can go ahead and enter it now. The additional information is optional, but it can be used for things like note or addendum information. We'll add one more row here for another employee. I'll enter their account number, choose their account type, their employee 2, and we'll leave their amount blank and save the template. The template has been saved successfully. When I'm ready to begin using it, I'll choose Make ACH Payment, Manage Templates, locate my template from the list, and continue. Header record is up top. I need to enter an amount for my second employee, my effective date, and I'll continue. We'll verify the details of this payment request. I will either submit for approval or transmit depending on my entitlement. And once we get to upload, I can show you exactly where the one-time security code is going to come into place for approval. For now, we'll just submit this for approval. Okay? There's also a one-time ACH capability. So this time we'll spend money without a template. We're not going to give it a name. If we do, it certainly becomes a template. We'll choose CCD payment, the company name and ID. We'll give it a description. We'll pay the water bill in this example. I'll choose the account, enter the maximum transfer amount, and select my effective date. We'll continue. Scroll down. I'll enter the payment information for the water company. the account type, name, and I have to enter an amount because this isn't a template. Can't exceed $300. I'm good to go here. We'll continue. Verify the details of the payment, and again, I'll submit for approval. We'll go back to Make ACH Payment Manage Templates because I want to show you the import capability. I can import details onto a template using an existing template or from a new template. I'll choose my template name, select to edit the template, then I have the option to import details. So instead of manually entering my employee payment information, I'll just import the details. I first have to add a file definition. The file definition can be in the fixed format, delimited, or notcher. What that is going to do is tell Business Online Banking where to find the data in your file. So once I've established the file definition, I'll continue, browse for the file on my computer, and then I'm going to specify if I'm adding new and updating existing transactions, adding new transactions only, updating existing transactions, or would I like to delete everything that exists on the template and add new transactions. I'll import the file, and then I can begin using that template for payment. Let's explore the collection piece. So I have two templates in place. We're not going to create a template because it works pretty much the same. I'll choose one of these templates, and we'll take a look at how it was created. I'll edit. So in this example, I'm collecting HOA dues. So I would have each of my homeowner information listed here, routing, account, type, name, and amount that I'll be debiting their accounts for. So since it's a collection, I'm going to be debiting the source accounts at the bottom and crediting my American Bank account. Set up exactly the same, just works in the reverse order. When it's time to approve ACH transactions, the approver is going to sign in. They can access the information from the Transfers and Payments Approvals page, or we can go Transfers and Payments, approve ACH transactions, locate the transaction that requires our approval, select them all if necessary, choose Continue, and we can approve the ACH transaction from this page. Let's have a look at the ACH upload capability. From Transfers and Payments, we'll go ACH, Upload ACH Transactions. I'll browse for the Nacha file on my computer. So it has to be a fully formatted Nacha file with header records included. You can contact the Treasury Management Support for assistance with updating your header records. Once I locate the file, I'll upload, and I'm automatically taken to the File Upload Status Approved Files page. The system is going to do a process of verification, which takes a minute or so. It's looking for errors in the file format. If an error is located, it pushes the file down to the Rejected Files section. You can choose the file name, review the very first error in the file, make corrections, upload the file again. It will go through the same process until the file is error-free. Once it's free of errors, it will be here in the middle of the page for approval or transmission. The approving party is going to choose the file name. You can view the details in the file and show the transaction. Once everything checks out as the approval, I'll hit Transmit. And here's the one-time security code for approval. I'll choose phone call or text message, continue, complete the process, and that places my approval on this ACH file upload. Let's move on to the wire service. We'll hover over Transfers and Payments again. Just like ACH, you have the option to make a one-time wire or create a template for future use. We'll start with Managing Wire Templates, and we'll add a template. Just as demonstrated with the transfer and ACH process, dual approval is also strongly recommended by the bank as a layered approach to security for online wire transmission. So we'll complete the details here. I'll give it a name, choose the type as well as the account for the wire, and continue. Up next is the recipient information. Just like with ACH, we can browse for the routing. I can do a partial search if necessary, remove the exact match and search, and it gives me a list of banks that include that search criteria. I can sort this information. I'll choose the appropriate bank, add bank. Notice that it populates the routing, bank name, and address. Up next is the recipient account information, recipient name, recipient address on address lines 1 and 2, recipient address line 3 and additional information are both optional. We'll scroll past the intermediary information, verify my company's wire initiator, and add the template. The template has been added successfully and it's ready to be used. So moving forward, I'll navigate to wire money via template, choose the template from the drop-down. I can always view the template details using the link. We'll close that. We'll enter the amount for the wire. I can also place this wire on a frequency using the same options we have for the other services. We'll continue, verify the details of the wire, and depending on my entitlement, I'll either submit for approval or transmit. We'll go ahead and submit this wire for approval. Pending party receives their alert, letting them know to sign in and approve this wire. They can go from the Transfers and Payments Approval panel on the Welcome page or Wire, Approve Wire. From this page, I can approve multiples if necessary. They'll locate the wire, choose Continue, and they can transmit here. Okay. We can also wire money using the one-time feature. We'll do domestic again. I'm not going to give it a name this time because it definitely becomes a template. We'll choose our send on date. We'll enter the amount and continue. I'll verify the details. And this works just like our template. We would complete the recipient information, verify the details, and transmit the one-time wire. You also have the ability to wire money via multiple templates. So if you're a company that initiates several wires in a day, you can do them all from one page. They just have to be on a template. So we'll click the drop-down and choose our first template. The details are still available. We'll enter the amount and select the send on date. Now for the rest of my request, I can do totally different templates, different amounts, same send on dates. I can switch this up however I need to. I'm presented with 5 line items initially. If I need to add more requests, I choose that option and I have 5 additional line items. I can send up to 99 wire requests from this page. Once I've added all my details, I choose Continue, verify the information. I either submit for approval or I approve these wire transactions. We'll submit these for approval. The next piece of information I want to share is in regards to Positive Pay. Positive Pay is located under Account Services. We'll focus on the Positive Pay piece, entering issues. Now, Positive Pay is sort of a fraud prevention tool. What it does is it allows you to submit the checks that you've written for the day to the bank. The next day, the bank is going to compare what you sent in against what's actually attempting to hit your account. Anything that wasn't included in what you specified that you wrote will appear as an exception, and you'll have to come in through your window of opportunity and say, oh yes, I did write that check, or no, I didn't write that check, return it. We'll begin by manually entering issues. So I'll choose the account or the issue. I enter the check number. I'll also enter the amount, the issue date, specify whether it was an issue or a void, and enter the payee name. Now let's say we have 2 more checks that came out of this same checkbook in order. If we choose sequential entry and continue, it gives us the same account number with the next check number. I enter the amount, the issue date, the type, and payee. We'll do 1 more and continue. Same account, new check number, amount, issue date, type, and payee. We'll continue. Here are the 3 issues that we entered. If something doesn't look quite right, I can choose the check number and update any of the information excluding the check number. I can also delete the entry here. We'll continue again. We'll go ahead and add the issue. Now let's say my company issues lots of checks throughout the day. My accounting software has a file that I can just import. We can import the issues. A file definition has to be specified first. Once we have one selected, we'll continue. We'll browse for the file and import the details of the file. The file import status page will either confirm, complete, or reject. If it's rejected or it has any errors that's specified under the status column, you can choose the file name, and it's going to give you the records with invalid data. The first one says the account could not be found. The second had a duplicate issue. So I can update the account number, remove the duplicate issue, and import a corrected file. Okay, we'll navigate over to exception decision. To manage our exceptions here, I have check exceptions awaiting approval. So these checks came back because they were not listed in the checks that I specified that were written or issued yesterday. So they're waiting for us to establish or pay a return. Someone has already said pay a return to the ones at the very top. It's waiting on me to approve that decision. Anything that has the ACH indicator was written as a check but converted over to an ACH. I have check images available. If I choose the image, it shows me the front of the check. We have the back of the check as well as front and back. I can still save, print, zoom. This one allows me to view it in a black and white image viewer, just in case things aren't easy to read. Okay, we'll go back to our exceptions. The second portion of this screen have those check exceptions that do not have a decision. So I'm going to review the information. I can choose the camera icon to view more details, or I can go ahead and select a decision, pay or return for any of these reasons. Let's say I review all 4 items and I realize they all need the same decision. I can choose the decision from the list and select apply. It updates all of that information. I also have the ability to edit. This was an amount mismatch. I can update the amount here and continue. I'll verify. It goes back to the bank for processing, and it will be corrected possibly the next day. So your bank is going to specify a window of time that you must sign in to make these decisions and approvals. If you don't sign in to say pay or return during the window of opportunity, there will be a default decision on file that's automatically applied to anything that hasn't been decisioned. Okay. There are a few reports on the left-hand side here that coincide with what we're discussing with the check positive pay. I'm going to run these reports using the defaults, and I'm going to include all decisions on this exception decisions report. We'll generate the report, and I have a list of all of my decisions. the check numbers, the amount, the issue date, posted date, the decision, as well as the payee, and then it moves down to the next account. We also have outstanding issues. We'll generate this report using the default. We'll show issues as well as voids. I'll verify the information here, and I have the check numbers, amount, issue date, payee, and type. We can take a look at the stale issues report. We'll generate the report, and I have a list of my stale issues. Check numbers, amount, issue date, payees, stale date, and whether or not the issue was a void or an issue. I can view the issue status. We'll generate the report based on the issue date. I have the check number, a few images, electronically converted ACH items, amount, issue date, posted date, the status, if the status was updated, and the payee. The last report we'll look at here are the corrected exceptions. So if you make any adjustments or corrections to your issues or voids, you can view that information here. Anything updated is highlighted with the green indicator. Our last agenda item is downloadable reports. If we go back to the Reports tab and hover, we'll see the option for Download Report. If you are getting EDI and or ACH return reports, this is where you'll be able to access those. The system now refers to them as downloadable reports. Okay, that concludes our session. Allow me just a moment to navigate back to the presentation. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Just as a reminder, American Bank is always available to support you. Please contact your bank's customer service or treasury management support at the telephone number listed.